And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 136. Well, we are back. I just celebrated a birthday. It's still kind of cold out, but spring's around the corner. We responded to a ton of comments yesterday. I saw an Aerostar in the wild very recently. It's been a really great, fruitful period for the Ford Aerostar and for Janky AF, so we're happy to be here and happy to celebrate another Ford Aerostar, which we will show you very shortly. Now, the narrative is here, if you'll remember, if you've been watching this series. The green 1993 Aerostar was in an unfortunate accident with a deer. The vehicle was totaled, however, I did manage to go to the junkyard, get a bunch of parts for it super cheap, which left us with a little bit of a nest egg. And since the money came from an Aerostar, I thought it'd be only fitting to spend it on an Aerostar. So we are shopping. And we've seen a lot of good candidates, and today I think we have a really fantastic candidate. So without further ado, let's introduce it. Here we have a 1990 Ford Aerostar Cargo, listed for $600 in Kodak, Tennessee. Now, unfortunately, this one has already been sold, so that kind of lets a little bit of air out of the sails. However, it is a really, really wonderful Aerostar. Obviously, you can see it's red. I'm wearing my all red, and maybe my red hat will give you a little indication of just how red this Aerostar is. But let's get into the details. So about this vehicle, driven 10,000 miles. I don't know if that's accurate. Automatic transmission. The exterior color is burgundy, and the interior color not listed. Interesting. Seller's description: 1994 Ford Aerostar Cargo minivan, driven 10,000 miles. I have a old Aerostar, don't want it scrapped if I can help it. Already a good sign. Owner cares about the vehicle. $600. Needs head gasket, transfixed, rebuilt on motor. I'm not sure what that means. If the transfixed, rebuilt on motor. Sounds like everything needs to get fixed. I suggest N-Trans, not even 100K. Still got some life if you got about 5-6K. Whew, that's a lot. And mechanically inclined, not rusted out, has dings, etc. Will run and drive, just don't suggest. So, project van. Oh, that's the kind I like. Located in Kodak, Tennessee. Good title, etc. Okay, not a lot to go by, but, you know, I really appreciate the transparency of the seller. First of all, they're only asking $600, which probably for a vehicle, it's an extended, obviously. This big is probably around scrap price. I'm not sure exactly what scrap price is these days. And this is both sort of, you know, I really appreciate the transparency, but to a person like me, saying I'm taking, you know, if it doesn't sell, I'm taking it to the scrapyard, that's like a little bit of a threat. Like, this thing needs to be saved, and it sounds like it's sold. So, you know, hopefully it has been saved. So anytime someone says, like, you know, don't want it scrapped or something like that, we like, obviously there's a story here. They cared about this vehicle. Time was put into this vehicle. Time was spent in this vehicle. And it does look very, very clean. I mean, obviously we see it's on a donut. Both bumpers intact. This one I already see looks like a little bit, there's some damage going on there. You know, we don't know exactly how intricate the damage is. It does have the wonderful alloy wheels, although it is sitting on a donut here. Looks like it's been pinched a little bit on the jack point here. But overall, very, very good condition. It looks like we have a white pinstripe and we have a roof rack. Does not appear to be all-wheel drive. And obviously an extended Aerostar is something I have always lusted after. We have, maybe that's another wheel for it. We don't know. Looks like the bumper's in good condition, but you know, until we see a 360-degree view of this Aerostar, we just don't know. These bumpers are very brittle, but even the fact that the side is on, as long as the other side is on, honestly, the sort of back straight portion of it can be saved. Now, 1990, Very interesting year for Aerostars, sort of the middle period where it's, I think 91 is when it sort of really hit its stride, I guess you could say. But 1990, you still, actually that's my favorite grill style, which I don't know if we're going to see, but it has the modern, we'll say, sort of 3-slot grill shell, but the Ford logo is in the middle instead of up top as it would later be. So it's sort of a hybrid of the first and second grills. First grill 86 through 88, second grill 88 through 90, I guess. 91, 86, 87, 88, no, I'm sorry. 86 through 88, 89 through 91, second grill style, and then starting in 92, the Aerostar's interior got refreshed, the lights became, fixed flush-mounted bulbs. And then the Aerostar, I believe the 5-speed, this is a great conversation on the Aerostar forums. I think around 92, the transmission slightly changed, both Mazda units, both 5-speeds, but it got a little bit, there's some difference that I am not technically savvy enough to tell you about. I think if you're trying to swap in a 5-speed into one of these vehicles, you do want to know which, if it's the earlier or later transmission. I don't know if the earlier transmission will bolt up to the 3-liter because I think most of those early transmissions came in either the 2.34 or the 2.8 6-cylinder. And I recently learned that the 2.8 is basically the same thing as the 4.0. It was just that the displacement of that engine just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's all the Cologne block. So without, I'll just sort of skip to the next picture here because that's really going to tell you why this Aerostar is special. And here we have, ding, 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 red interior. So we recently did a gray Aerostar, also extended with a red interior. Here we have a red on red, which to me is like a Corvette spec. I mean, the red on red is a very Corvette spec. You do see it in some Ferraris, but it seems like maybe, Ferrari, most Ferraris are not, you could use the word gaudy if you want to. It wouldn't necessarily be the word I use, but red on red, gray with a red interior, black with a red interior, black over red, also a great Corvette spec, white with a red interior, very classic spec, but the red on red, you're just really going for it. And, of the handful of red interiors I've seen, I have seen a couple that have been red on red. And, it's just a sign of the times. Like in the 90s, that was the thing. When they went for it, they really went for it. And what I have to point out here is just how immaculate this thing is. I mean, there doesn't look to be any real big rips or tears on the seats, maybe perhaps a touch faded. And what really gets me is look at the tightness of this line of where your plastic molding, excuse me, meets the headliner, and the headliner also looks very, very tight. Now, Tennessee is sort of a good state because it's warm. There's not really super cold winters. This vehicle's probably never seen a lot of snow or salt, and consequently has very little rust. But the thing about the really southern states, your Floridas and Alabamas and Georgias, is it's so hot that these cars will just bake in the sun. Now, I imagine Tennessee gets pretty darn hot in the summer too. However, for whatever reason, this Aerostar, I don't know if it was garaged, but it seems like the interior has been preserved incredibly well. And that's a rare thing. I've been telling a lot of people recently, if I was going to buy like a Project Aerostar, or any car for that matter, a lot of times the interior, if you have like a really immaculate interior, but the outside's kind of busted, like you can, weld in sheet metal, it's time intensive, but it's a lot easier to, it's a lot more possible to fix the exterior vehicle than is interior vehicle, because good luck finding these parts. First, you'd have to find the molding from an extended vehicle. It looks like a rather intricate molding, so even just taking this out and refitting a new one seems like it would be very difficult. And then to find one in red, or if you were going to have, you would have to, if it wasn't red, you'd have to paint it. Also, this is like an earlier style. I'm not sure, obviously when they did the refresh in 92, a lot of the dashboard and the steering wheel and all that got changed. I don't know how much of this interior molding got changed, but I would be willing to bet there were some slight alterations in here. And then if you're going to try to paint this plastic, again, anything can be done, but the seats, good luck finding red seats. And if you couldn't find red seats, you'd have to get other seats reupholstered. And it just seems like the interior is almost, if you're going to try to really make a nice time capsule of a car, finding a pristine interior is almost more difficult than finding a pristine exterior. And, you know, again, to my, you know, to beat you over the head with it, I think redoing the exterior of a vehicle, knocking out dents, even a respray, not cheap, but this one seems to be in fairly good condition, and just the interior I think is really, you know, the more difficult thing to replace. We have one more photo, and you can see obviously it is like sort of the first generation steering wheel, automatic transmission. You get this incredibly long shifter stalk, and even the carpets look to be good in condition. Your steering column cover, that's gone on my 86. Even the floor mats are red, and the gripping is red, the molding is red, the sill is red, the door cards are red, the hinges are red. That's what I love so much about the blue, mostly blue and red, because those are the only, they didn't do like this. Green was sort of gone by the end of the 70s. I love green interiors too, and that's coming back a little bit. I think I just saw some really flashy, a Rolls Royce or something, some very modern car that had an all green interior. So it's coming back. You can see your sort of, you know, pre-facelift gauge cluster here with the yellow line starting at 55, the red line starting at 75. It's not a tachometer, it's just a warning to, you know, Aerostar drivers that if you're going over 55 miles an hour, you should really be paying attention to what you do, and 75 is something that you should just not even attempt, which is just another sign of the times. Even this front seat, we don't get a whole picture of it, but this bolster area right here on my 93 Sport, that's all torn up. The padding has been sort of deflated, and there's a rip in it just from people ingress and egress a million times out of the vehicle. I don't believe this actually has 10,000 miles on it, but it says it's sub 100,000 miles. And unfortunately, that's all we have is these 3 pictures. You can see the, you know, your audio controls back here with your like ashtray, so, you know, your children can not only listen to headphones to sort of drown out the noise of the parents talking, but also to calm their nerves, they can smoke cigarettes and have an ashtray. And they have a slide open window, another great feature of the Aerostar, so your children can even ash their cigarettes outside to not clog up their ashtrays, their individual ashtrays, while they listen to their music on their headphones. Looks like we have the rear climate control package, which I'm not sure if that was on all of them, but it looks like a climate control vent in the rear here, which is very, very cool. And, you know, just an amazing, amazing spec. The fact that we've had 2 red interior Aerostars come up recently is quite fantastic. And for only $600, this would be a fantastic start to a restoration project, because all the really key bits are there. Again, we'd have to see the condition of the bumpers. But, you know, apparently it does run and drive, so you're sort of, seems like you're sort of on borrowed time. We don't get a lot of specifics about what exactly the transmission issue is, what gears it's going into and not going into, if it's just slipping, etc. But a fantastic, really enticing, you know, sort of holy grail piece. And I don't know if I've ever seen a red interior that's in quite this immaculate condition. Just very, very special. And so the interior alone on this vehicle would be worth easily $600. And the fact that it's, you know, looks like very completely rust free. You see this sort of telltale sign here. Looks like there has been some caulking done over the window. Very, very common and unfortunate, but that, you know, that can always be touched up and painted. I do like the white pinstripe. Gives it just that little bit of splash of differentiation in the otherwise just completely redded out interior. And it's funny, I'm trying to remember now, I'm trying to figure out the years that the interior was red on the Aerostar. I think it was somewhere around 90 or 89 until perhaps 1994, which would be a pretty short run, you know, less than half of the Aerostar's complete 12-year run. Maybe it was only 93, I don't know, but I know that I've seen, I think the last one we saw, this red interior period happened during the transition of, you know, interior facelift. So that means we have both the 92 and onward with the new steering wheel and dashboard, and also the previous, you know, at least from 88. I don't know if I've ever seen one earlier than 88 with a red interior. I don't believe it was available in 86 or 87. I've never seen that. But eventually it came along, and it didn't last forever. And you got to figure, of all those Aerostars sold in that year, a slim, minority of them actually were optioned with the red interior. I'm not sure if that was just something you picked or if it was part of a package. I don't know. I would like to know more about how exactly you spec'd out a red interior. If it was just something you could order from the factory, or they only just made a certain percentage of them red, why they chose a red interior, the cost to change all this stuff from, you had a lot. You had the all gray, you had the all gold, and when I say all gold, they were still two-tone in the pattern. Then you had some gold with the red piping, some gray with the red piping. You had the two-tone blue interior with the sort of grayish blue on the royal blue. You had the all blue interior. You had the cargo versions with the more bucket vinyl seats, and then of course you had the red interior. I think the red interiors were pretty much all the same. I don't know if they ever had like piping on them or anything like that. But I don't know if the red interior package cost more money, if it was just a no-cost option. We don't know. Not many people selected it, that's for sure. But they are a truly unique interior combination on the Aerostar, and something that really is, like I've said, a sign of the times. You just never see, you'll see Audis now with red seats, or Lexuses with red and black seats, some BMWs, but they never have like just completely. It's funny, a painting project I was just working on, we were color drenching, or monochromatic as I call it, and I've always been into monochromatic. I think it's a really cool thing. I like the idea of it just being completely in one color. It's just, it makes you see everything different. It makes you see the dashboard different. It makes you see the steering wheel different. Everything just looks a little bit different. This even seems like it has some weird center console, which I'm just noticing now, that is not like the center console I got from the junkyard. This must be like an earlier iteration of the center console where it seems more open. So that's pretty cool. So color drenching or monochromatic is very in now. So I was just writing a comment how the Aerostar proves its timelessness, because this thing that is now becoming something of a fad for the last 2 or 3 years, I'd say. Well, the Aerostar was doing it back in 1990. So, ahead of its time, timeless at the same time, to make a rhyme with time, is amazing. So, it's just an incredible Aerostar, and this one would certainly be worth $600. Obviously, you'd have to ship it, but Tennessee, it's not like you're out in California or Oregon where we've seen a lot of nice Aerostars. It's sort of middle of the country from the East Coast, not too far away. Obviously, you wouldn't want to try to drive it back, but just a really fantastic spec, and I hope this one has found a good home. What? I heard something. Hold on. Apologize for this. This might be a little bit of an absence, so I'm gonna just gonna take you with us here to see what's going on. I guess this will turn into a mini My Janky Life. Don't normally do this, but I think I heard something. I gotta go tend to it here real quickly. You can see it's just a sort of a miserable day here. Snow back on the ground again. And but spring's coming, I apologize about this. Whew. Huh, what was that noise? What is that? Oh my God. Look at this. Boy, that looks a lot like the one we were just looking at. Huh. Imagine that. Oh my God. Look at that red interior. That is beautiful. Oh my goodness. That is incredible. Well, happy April Fool's Day here at Janky AF. This April Fool, I guess, has gotten another Aerostar. So, we will give you some more information in the coming days. But it looks like our search is over for the next Aerostar in the Janky AF fleet. This is absolute insanity, but sometimes things are just too good to pass up. So, we will wrap up here. Always wave to the neighbors. And oh, until next time, Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.